In many professional settings, the traditional exchange of ideas has hit a wall. Logical propositions that once invited counterarguments are now met with targeted hostility, creating a landscape where the ground of debate is being actively fractured. On the left, data is evaluated on its merits. On the right, the receiving node ignores the information, firing a targeted strike back at the speaker. This modern ad hominem is designed to bypass data and lock onto character. Weaponized language functions as a tactical tool in this theater. It is deployed to achieve the total suppression of dissent, replacing persuasion with a character strike. For the professional, relying on traditional critical thinking becomes a liability when they fail to recognize they are under a targeted character attack. When hit with a manufactured label, the logical professional's instinct is to use facts and reason to clear their name and prove the label is misapplied. Within frameworks prioritizing tactical efficiency over intellectual honesty, this defensive instinct leads to a predictable failure. Attempting to logically disprove an identity-based smear constitutes a tactical surrender to the opponent. Surviving this environment without falling into self-censorship requires abandoning the defensive reflex entirely. True cognitive autonomy is preserved by mastering a protocol called logical resilience, which neutralizes the attack by refusing its foundational premise. Dismantling the trap begins with a clinical taxonomy of the specific weapons being used. This matrix categorizes the language. Here, words like misogynist or racist lose descriptive utility. They function as identity-based labels, used to advance an agenda and bypass a professional's logic. We also see constructed phobias, artificial terms manufactured to enforce ideological alignment. These labels are assembled tactical instruments, engineered to leverage high social gravity. This immense social gravity is deliberately designed to trigger a defensive reflex, utilizing weaponized shame to paralyze the intellect. Survival depends on recognizing these labels as mechanical tools. Treating them as moral judgments guarantees a discourse shutdown. Once the weapons are identified, the method of deployment becomes clear. This sequence is the discourse shutdown. The process follows a progression. Stage 1, the logical trigger. A professional identifies a proposal that lacks consistency or doesn't add up. Stage 2, the argument bypass. The opponent ignores the critique, pivoting away from the intellect to target the character. This shift moves the engagement theater away from the idea to the person. Stage 3, application of shame. Identity-based labels exert maximum emotional pressure. Finally, Stage 4, the shutdown. Sensing the character strike, the professional retreats into silence. Because the attacker prioritizes tactical efficiency over intellectual honesty, standard rules of inquiry fail. The system is engineered to turn a commitment to logic into a tactical liability. The argument bypass is the moment where the logical actor inadvertently facilitates their own erasure. This tree maps the psychological snare, the vocabulary trap. It begins with a loaded word. The professional mistakenly treats an irrational smear as a valid hypothesis. This triggers Stage 2, the defensive pivot. The professional enters the opponent's vocabulary to defend their character. By adopting the opponent's language, the professional grants them the home field advantage. This results in the final stage, surrender of the logical high ground. Logic fails because the vocabulary itself is an instrument of erasure. There is no logical escape once these terms are accepted. The definitions are constructed in a way that makes an objective win impossible. Treating a smear as a legitimate debate topic validates the attacker's rigged premise. Rebutting an identity-based label within a rigged framework results in self-erasure. To maintain agency, the trap must be bypassed entirely. Maintaining professional agency requires abandoning defensive justification in favor of strategic persistence. Looking back at the decision tree, we can map the correct path of engagement. This path relies on 3 non-negotiable rules. Rule 1. Refuse the vocabulary. You must completely reject loaded language and constructed phobias. If you do not speak their language, the opponent cannot control the boundaries of your argument. Rule 2. Ignore the shame. View these labels as tactical tools rather than moral truths. Cultivating a calculated indifference to manufactured shame acts as an impenetrable rhetorical shield, rendering the weapon powerless. Rule 3. Persist in speaking. You must relentlessly force the discourse back to objective reality. Continue identifying when ideas do not add up, acting as if the tactical labels were never spoken. These 3 rules neutralize the power of identity-based rhetoric, shifting the power dynamic back to the pursuit of objective truth. Operating as a resilient agent means recognizing that while you cannot control the deployment of tactical strikes, you control your participation in them. Professional standing is maintained by the rigidity of the logical framework rather than the strength of a character defense. Calculated indifference to emotional pressure is the highest form of defense. You must abandon the impulse to justify yourself. Your voice must remain an instrument of objective analysis, unmoved by any application of manufactured pressure. The ultimate act of professional agency is the cold, calculated refusal to validate a framework specifically engineered for your own erasure.